The Economic Community for West African States is working on deepening interregional trade within the West African sub-region. This is in line with its mandate to facilitate the free movement of goods and services to encourage formal trade. TNBC Africa's Umu Ibrahim caught up with Toga Gayewia MCINTOSH, Vice President at ECOWAS, for more on the initiatives adopted to ensure a more sustainable interregional trade arrangement. Let's take a look.
There are several things to be done. You remember you started your preface by saying trade and investment. Because what needs to be done to be able to carry out that whole movement within the region is to tackle those areas that promote investment, areas that then facilitate the movement of goods and people. So the two things are not separable, because if you have the movement going and you have the market that we have in West Africa, production certainly will respond. It's a question of supply and demand. Now, the discussion about how do you move it, the linkage, is where it's critical now. Because even if we did the supply, which we got to some extent, our mangoes are dropping, no use of it. Our pineapples are getting rotten into the market, into the bushes. Our women go to sell their products and they cannot sell it on that day. They take it back and they rot. So the supply, something has happened. We need to intensify it. The demand is always there. Every day a new mouth is born. Every day people are moving into our region. The region has over close to 500 million people. Now, what now is necessary is bringing the two together. And this is where our first tackle as to what needs to be done. And so today, this discussion we're having really is doing one of the things that needs to be done. Because if you're not going by rail, you're not going by road vehicles, you are not going by air, we have a very good avenue, the sea. And I think we need to tackle that as well.
So how committed do you think the ECOWAS Commission is to the development of intra-trade within Africa?
Very much committed. Very, very much committed. You mean when you say the ECOWAS?
The ECOWAS.
Let me sort of prefix it. The ECOWAS, it's by the word ECOWAS, is all of us in West Africa. So the question then goes to different levels of people. How committed are our market women, our market men, and how committed are our business manufacturers? I believe they are committed. I mean, if you start seeing our women in the rain, carrying their little produce to market, coming back without the market, the next morning they are on their feet again, that's commitment. Then you have the governments. The government's commitment is as important because they have to come up with the policies to help. We know that the cardinal objective of setting us up is trade, is production, and it's also elimination of poverty. And you can see if you want to really eliminate poverty, then where we need to go. So our level of commitment is unwavering. This project that we're discussing, we've been right with it from the word go. We talked about EcoBank, we talked about ACCRA, and the Commission has been along the lines throughout. This is another brainchild. The West African Chamber of Commerce, the Commission has an office there for them. And we facilitate all their meetings. We facilitate not only in terms of presentation, we facilitate in terms of funding, so that we together realize this dream. We are very, very much committed.
So is there any kind of, initiative, by the Commission with regards to intra-trade in Africa?
Oh yes, we have. It's not just an initiative, we have a whole commissioner responsible for trade. And his work, his office work, is to work along with all the ministers of trade and commerce in the 15 member states. And they meet, they set up their own guidelines, they set up their policies, and those are then taken on to the ministers of the Council of Ministers, and then on to the President. So in terms of the facility for us to push trade within our region is there. But as I've said earlier, there are three stumbling areas you have to go. The people themselves, the government that run these respective countries, and then they facilitate the infrastructure. Now, we have discovered that is one more thing is important, is the traveling document, the harassment between borders. And I think there where we want to focus some attention. Because if you ease that area and people can move freely with very little harassment, you are in effect supporting trade and movement of people and goods.
Now, what is the key, to the promotion of, this exceptional project, the SEALINK project that we've been talking about today?
I think if you listen to the promoters, they are talking about several things. And one of them that really excites me is that when you want to move goods across our countries, those goods will get into a European ship. The ship will go to Europe, unload your goods, and then before you get there, so it takes about 90 days to get something from just country that you could do in 30 minutes. So the real key motivating factor there is to reduce that transaction cost, to reduce the time cost, and at the same time to increase production. Because as soon as we begin to move those things in this big market, production has to go up, and poverty is defeated. I think to me that is the key.